I grew up Catholic, went to a Jesuit grammar school, high school, college. Did really well and got a really good job, but never had any sort of religious or spiritual connection in any sense. Within that time frame, I had met my wife, we had gotten married, we had a child.
We had been married, Jeff and I, for about a year and a half. And at that point, we weren't going to church. After we got married, we just did our classes, and then we just kind of just went along for the ride, and then it just like started getting bumpy, you know. That's whenever I found out that Jeff had been addicted to painkillers.
No one knew about the addiction. I hid it from everyone, and it dominoed from being, you know, consequences were minimal until it got really bad, lost everything. Job, we're 6 months behind on mortgage, cars.
I had no idea. It had carried on for a year and a half without me knowing. So much pain was there for me, a lot of resentment. I found out he was high the day that we got married and high the day that my children were born. And at that point I was just alone, and I was just kind of like scared, and I had these 2 kids, and I know that I wanted to, you know, believe in my marriage, but I didn't know how I was gonna do that. And then I started like realizing like, okay, I have to fall back on my faith. So found out about Alpha. I did a Thursday morning group, and I was a new mom, or a young mom, I guess, and there were a lot of other young moms in that group. I got really lucky. And those women were very much so just counselors, and I know that they prayed for me. It was everything that I needed at that point in time.
Went to rehab and went on my journey of recovery. While that was going on, my marriage was still on the rocks. My wife had actually taken Alpha and suggested I take it, but I wanted to do my own recovery thing separate. But she kept on saying after she would go to these Alpha classes, it's different, just try it. So last spring I tried it. I'm all about like facts and historical facts, and like I never cared to put in the time to know, like I knew Jesus existed, but I didn't know the facts. I didn't know about all of the different writings and how the writings from the Bible are actually more proven than like mathematical books and stuff like that. And through the Alpha class, it sort of was the bridge between my wife and her spirituality, my drug recovery and that spirituality, and Alpha sort of brought me into the church, where now I have a different perspective.
Whenever Jeff gets into something, or whenever he's impacted by something, he can't stop talking about it. Every time he'd come home and he would like start like going on and on and on and on about this video. And he's talking about God a whole lot more than I've ever heard him.
I got prayed over on the Alpha retreat, and I got like these goosebumps that like I never felt before. And like, even though the person praying over me didn't know my full story, they just coincidentally shared things that, or prayed on things with me that there's no other way they would have known. And it was just like this out-of-body experience where I was like, that's when I was convinced like this is where I'm supposed to be at this moment. And that was like the aha moment where like I couldn't wait to get home to tell my wife about how that experience was. And
it made it to where we had a common ground finally, like in our faith. You know, we could finally just be on the same page.
So our marriage has turned around to now we communicate. We want to get our kids involved in the church. We go on a regular basis. We participate in groups in the church. It made us communicate on a deeper level than we ever had before.
I couldn't talk to my husband about the Lord or about prayer. I've never even heard him pray out loud before until we did Alpha. I know that he feels comfortable talking to our girls about it now, and that was my biggest prayer, was that he would just become the man that God intended him to be.